Mr. Hesham, the following law, which is important and could help small projects, would be the commercial concession or franchise to guarantee the rights. This could be adopted in education or any other field, and if they find that this has been tested, this could be satisfactory, that they know that another authority is supervising this. Thank you, Mr. Sherif, for this question. The franchise or commercial concession, if we look to the problems of SMEs, I don't have a business model, I have no information about the market, I don't have the trademark for which I can have the franchise would realize a very difficult equation, particularly with the small entities who are not capable of having a successful project from day one. We have a problem, in fact, in Egyptian law, particularly concerning the franchise. The idea of franchise is very successful inside Egypt, and through the franchise, I can spread this in the market without bearing the cost of establishing a new system, and the SMEs will benefit from this. And this is the franchise, which of a big volume. It includes a lot of experts and brands and expertise. We have an impediment in Egyptian law. There are certain provisions in 1929 that was passed by those who wanted to protect the national economy, and he put conditions that any person with a franchise coming Egypt, he says, no, there is arbitration and the Egyptian law will be applied in certain cases, and if there is any harm, the compensation will go to the main franchisor. And there are certain conditions. If you put in the contract 12 provisions that would have full annulment. This franchise is a commercial contract in which there is a contractual conditions, and each party will know where is his interest whenever I interfere in details. Hence, resorting to this system, particularly in projects coming from abroad, that could change the internal trade and change the market, and this would tend to other countries. The aim of this project, it's a very small project from 7-8 articles. There was the second draft, and we had discussion with the Franchise Association in order to alleviate whatever impediments that would let any person who is interested in contracting would abstain from entering the Egyptian market, and would determine the most important point for the recipient of the franchise, which is the disclosure. I should know exactly when I'm taking my decision. I should have very important information concerning this franchise in order that I wouldn't participate in investment not knowing whether it is profitable or not, or what are the results, what is the marketing company, what is my relationship with such company. Do I have any rights? Very important points that has to be tackled. And this is solved in this law. I did not read it thoroughly, but I have the certain rounds with those who prepared the law. And if we're speaking about a time framework, maybe in May or June, this will be finally presented to the government to take the procedures in adopting it. And thank you very much. Mr. Mohamed. When we go outside of Cairo, we find that the most important active authorities are civil societies. Maybe this is very clear in financing the SMEs, in the factoring new law, and in the leasing system as well. And I believe if we want to reach different parts of the country, these authorities will assist us in different provinces in Egypt. You, in your capacity as being from the banking sector, are you satisfied or unsatisfied in financing these authorities outside of the corporates that plays a very important role with the SMEs? I have worked with the Social Fund for Development for a certain period, and financing of projects of SMEs used to take place through the civil societies that took this finance from the social fund and would redistribute it on the small projects and SMEs. The companies are stronger for sure. This needs that this person should be satisfied for such authorities. This is not in relation with the banking rules. Mr. Mohsen from Alexandria Associations, he raised a very important point, which is the following up. Those small projects needs to be followed up on daily basis. You should follow up to protect him and to be satisfied that he's using the finance in the purpose taken for, and to monitor and follow up. This is very important for the SMEs, and I do greet you for this opinion. My last question. The corporate law started with two important matters, the shareholders agreement and in governance, like the good shares. The question that we're speaking about the SMEs now, what has been mentioned in the first session and in the coming session in restructuring as well, you see these tools could be of satisfaction for the venture capitalists or venture capitalists in order to guarantee the rights. Up till now, the judge could understand this shareholders agreement. The most important type in the commercial markets are the companies. On a daily basis, there are great interest that should be well organized among the shareholders concerning voting or other matters as well. Exit from the company, all these could be agreements taking place among the shareholders. And we did not have a clear-cut clause in the Egyptian law that says that these agreements could be enforced if any dispute takes place. And the shareholder agreement is an issue where corporates are very developed. This is part of to be adopted. Whoever studies the corporate Egyptian law is silent in this case. We cannot say that this was not adopted, but we had different risks. Any attempt to develop the company, and it should include shareholder agreement, needs risks that maybe it is not to be honored if it is in front of the courts in the future. The corporate law dealt this shortly and quickly and saying that these agreements have certain restrictions. I do not remember them now. It should be enforced, and this is a good point, because the financier who enters into venture capitalist has very important agreements that should be honored by those who are bearing the risk, that this would be for his interest and benefit. The second point, which is important, and we had a problem in this, are the shares or excellent bonds, premium shares. This was not mentioned in the main contract of the company. It is not possible that at any time we can have partners with premium shares. This was a great precautions in order to protect the rights of other shareholders, but this is an excessive protection that would have a contrary impact. I should take high risk, and my shareholders should have premium shares in voting, for instance. And this is the model that was existing in companies where the main contract did not stipulate this. And we have this mechanism that would permit that you would take the risk and restructuring in order to have this very important tool that will give you more satisfaction. And lastly, the 15980 law has been amended. It includes this mechanism. Thank you. We will accept one or two questions.
Please take the mic. There is an example for financing the SMEs that is widespread across the globe, which is equity crowdfunding. And actually this really provides financing in a very easy way, direct way, streamlined for the startups. I want to ask, what is the framework, the legal framework for implementing this crowdfunding idea in Egypt? Crowdfunding, التمويل الجماعي or crowdfunding, and it's not only in ownership but also in lending. It can also be used in charity, and I think that concerning charities, the law of civil societies. The problem with lending is that they have two problems actually that make them very non-conformist to the capital market. As long as everyone is happy, nothing, everything is okay. But then when problems take place, the problem becomes very obvious. All the advanced countries starting to put legislation, but restrictions on the amount that is being put by the individual, and also concerning the money received by corporates. Even the United States, they make this relative to the income. There is a certain number that is relevant to your income. We then have to think about or think of technology, who is qualified, what are the risks. There also should be someone to make sure that at the receiving ends there is conformity. And we have to see and look into other experiences of other countries like Singapore, but now we don't have this solution. You go, you're jailed. First, I want to salute the ECAS, to salute the podium, this podium and other podiums itself, the precedent one. This is a real informative, very elitist discussion that gives us a lot of information, very technical and specialized information. Well, the problem with Egypt's economy is that it's a closed economy. In other countries, people are ahead of the government. They are innovative, and then the government may close. Like, for example, a crowd finance example. People do it, and then the government approve or makes laws about that. The Bitcoin, for example, is another example. They put the law after people decide what to do. But we can't here make this message clear. First, people go ahead, they start something, and then we make the laws. Yes, there might be some risks, but that's one of the ways that the economy will be opened up. Other points is that yes, we have excellent laws, but applicability and implementation, this is the point, this is the problem. The licensing law, for example, industrial and others, in the industrial agency or authority, I know that there is temporary license, but the final license is never there. What is the problem? We have to understand what is the... Yes, I understand, I agree. In the same day, you have temporary license. But to reach the final license, it never happens. Why is that? Nobody knows. This should be looked into. The third point is that this forum should have been conducted in Cairo Stadium. Why am I saying so? Because we need 100,000 attendees. If I apply the chain reaction concept, means that this will be transferred to 5 persons. This will reach, our message will reach a maximum 1,000 persons. So, 5 to 5 to 5, 1,000. I want this to reach 100,000. So this important informative forums that discuss problems and answers should be on a wide scale location and get out also the borders of Egypt. Dr. Abla, I want to thank, of course, my colleague in the struggle, Councillor Ragab and Councillor Hesham, and Mr. Ehwany and Mr. Sherif, also about the amazing simplified analysis. I have some comments, however. As to the tax incentives and the point said that startups can work without it, tax incentives are being accused of being non-beneficial, but this means also it means that some informal sectors do not pay at any case the taxes. So we should have solved that problem. The second point concerning the informal sector, we have good suggestions that is now saying light, but again, we have to complete this circuit. If I give him 3 years for reconciliation, I have, as a state, provided him a place where he can start up. In the different government rates, I should specify and entitle him a certain place to reconcile, or else I'm not helping him at all. There are also a lot of kinds for tax incentives like researches, workshops, all that. I know that the law is very good. It has a very good also positives, but it should be completed by filling in the gaps. And the internal executive bulletins should also be specified for applicability. But doors should not be half open. There should be criteria. This should not be related only to the minister or his convictions. It should be unbiased. It should be objective. And going on and on, regardless of persons. The crowdfunding also has, I have the following comments. The indicators will be put or proposed by the ECES, and also we've been discussing certain issues with us youth. We are going to conduct this forum with other elements, like the one we did in Alexandria, but we'll do it in Upper Egypt, in Asia Youth. And before Upper Egypt, our website and the Facebook, we you can log into and you can see and access all the information. Thanks a lot. Mr. Hesham would comment, but concerning incentives, I think that incentives for financing companies that finance this sector, it's not only capital, but financing will be an incentive for you to justify why do you have an office in Sihag, for example, and you finance certain entities. The first point as to industrial licenses, before that there were no licenses, whether temporary or permanent. So as I understand the law in this application, the first stages of application, there were certain requirements that were not officially applied because it should go to the security the State Council to be approved. So 80% of low-risk projects at the first of their transaction will take 1 week. As to the big projects, it should not exceed 5 or 6 months after it was open. So this is an advancement. But we are following up. We have very positive feedback from certain people, and there were certain of course people who are not or who are not informed. We need to have satisfaction on part of those involved after all the suffering in the sector. I'm telling Dr. Abla that incentives in the law will not be disclosed now because we are on ongoing discussions with Ministry of Finance, but it's not on the board. So I give this based on certain criteria, and the impact or value impact is also being analyzed. There are a lot of details, so when we reach common object or common implementation, common agreement with the Ministry of Finance, we are going to disclose it. As to the temporary licensing, I would tell him that if you are restricted because you don't have the location, one of the incentives is that can I give you a nominal rent land or ownership with very reduced cost, or maybe for free if the project is great, through this reconciliation period. So we have handled this also. These are the very important points proposed. Mr. Martels, you had a comment? I'll speak from my own perspective about SMEs. When we were sort of explaining small, medium, I think there was some confusion because in even the SMEs there are stages, poverty combat, then another stage moving from informal to formal, and there are of course a lot of mechanisms. I think that Alexandria Businessmen Association used a certain kit that is published in the ILO, that they upgrade the requirements according to the size or the volume of the loan until they help them to get into the formal sector. But sometimes, you know, all the customers or clients that we send them to the bank come back from there. But there are some contradictions between the law and the other factors. So if I support certain vendors who are not stable in one place, So here I'm supporting slots and random locations. So it's one package. There should be a lot of unified or certain synergies in order to reach our common objective. I'm against the financial subsidy. I might have some differences with the initiative because SMEs proved that the average, that the poor one can really pay. So the cost here is big because there is follow-up. There is a lot of things that have to be introduced. So in Egypt, maybe we did not create a product, but we clone a product, and so we missed certain things. Because across the globe there is raising awareness, there is informative sessions and all these things. So there's also medical literacy about life, cleanliness and all these things. This must be the last questions because we are going to get out of this hall now by force, on the part of the hotel. You mean that you want to upgrade the SMEs until they reach the bank? Is there a problem that you think the Union of Banks in their legal committees are requested to solve this problem while Mr. Ehwany is there? Answer. The important point here, I blame banks that brought down the average of when I went from banking to SMEs, I started learning the rules of the game for SMEs. So if I don't understand the mechanics of the SMEs, I will do an injustice to the beneficiary. So either the system is integrated, it's not only financing, there is social aspects there, so we need the system to be integrated and to be complementary so that we reach our objective of how to develop these people and avoid bringing them into perpetual debts. We should also guarantee added value. The subsidy should be specified for a certain objective, and I should have a plan for that. Some people took the 5% 8 times, and other people need it, and they never had it, or they never have it. So I should put criteria for subsidy. I cannot give subsidy to certain countries in Egypt who are exporting for the last 25 years. I should find the appropriate group. So there will be a lot of segments that will clash with all these factors. There are civil societies that are qualified for finance, others are not qualified. We should help them. And actually, the SMEs or the microfinancing should go to the beneficiaries because they are, through certain channels that are more capable to complete this system. We thank Mr. Ehwany, Councillor Hesham Ragab.